this thing is working properly. I'm actually terrified properly that it is not working properly. It looks like I could be in approximately 780K. I'm not sure. Kevin or
You're good. You're
Steven
good.
will.
We got you. You're good.
Is it bad?
No,
Just
you're
tell the
good.
truth. Okay. I'm gonna look at the stream myself here in about a second, but nonetheless, we are back on the Phoenix Mercury podcast. I am your host, Erika Day, joined by QB1, PG1, on and off the field, in and out of the studio. Let's hope if I'm going to point to the right direction. Oh, I did it, Stephen Pridgeon Garner. How the heck are you doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
I'm doing great. Excited to have women's basketball be back in full capacity, on schedule, and with most of the league's ducks in a row outside of the officials and the way things went over the weekend. But I'm just happy to have basketball back. I won't be, um, yeah, happy to have basketball back. How about you? How you doing?
I'm stoked. I had a pretty rough vet appointment this morning, but I will say on the positive side, having a bad vet appointment is much better than having a appointment. You know what I mean? So I guess there's some give and take there. You win some, you lose some in life. But nonetheless, I'd like to say I appreciate all of you chatters down there below. David, Andy, Bryant, Deborah, The Future Becomes President, Dolores. Everybody be sure to leave a like, leave a thumbs up, 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to PHNX Sports where you can get all the happenings for Arizona sports, whether it be Arizona Wildcats, ASU Sun Devils, the Mercury, the Suns, the Cardinals, the D-backs. Dang, did I miss anyone? Oh, Phoenix Rising. I mean, we've got everything under the sun. So while you're here, just be sure to hit that subscribe button. Uh, I guess uh, I was like really looking forward to today's episode, actually, Stephen, because you tend to take such an analytical approach, and I feel like the conversations surrounding basketball on an off day get a little off the tracks in the WNBA landscape. So I'm excited to kind of re-rein the horse, if you will, and bring things back on track here. Because obviously the Mercury are 1-1 after their 2-game road stretch. I will say, like, I'm not thrilled that the Mercury started their season on the back to back, but on the flip side of that same coin, this is their only back to back of the season. So I guess there is some solace in getting it over with.
Yeah, I would say having it sooner than later is. I mean, if you just have to have it, sure, why not? And if you have to have it and the Aces are involved in any capacity, you would much rather win that game over whoever else it is you might be playing that's mixed in with that back to back as well. So, uh, I mean, that's the scheduling is not the most ideal, but that's something that's completely out of the team's control. They can just go out and handle their business accordingly. They did so in the one that we would all probably agree that mattered the most, even if they did kind of leave a little bit on the table as far as finishing this first weekend with a weekend sweep, which was definitely on the table. And that's kind of, I'm sure, what we'll be diving into conversation wise today. What did you think about that whole setup of the schedule and how they had to start the season off?
Well, to your point, like this isn't like college where coaches and basketball staffs decide when they play who. This is just kind of handed to them by the league. So, to your point, like if they have to have one, I would much rather it be early than later. Granted, I would have loved for it not to have been opening weekend, just because I feel like nobody is really conditioned. Like you can be as the best conditioned player in the world, but it's still different than game conditioning. And I think you see that like over and over again in the league where people kind of get in rhythm and people get in the groove of their game time kind of, routines, and it kind of helps them. And with so many new faces, so many people that are new to the league, a lot of these players have never even been to the places that they're playing before. So, what are they going to eat? Or what kind of coffee are they going to drink in the morning? How are they going to get to the game? While the team may take care of a lot of that for them, it's still a big question mark walking into your first time at that opponent. So, yeah, I'm glad they got it over with, just because selfishly I hate back to backs. I love to have a sprinkle of free time in our lives, free Stephen, but it is what it is. Nonetheless, screw it, we ball, I guess, as the kids say these days. What I will say is, and I know you've got the tweet from Lobo to talk about it, but this tough schedule to start the season. Not just the back to back, but the Mercury are playing 8 of their first 11 games are against playoff caliber teams from 2025, which makes for a very difficult, beginning to the schedule. To my own point, you get in the rhythm of games, you get in game time condition, and it makes your life a lot easier as a basketball player. But considering that the first quarter of their season basically is all against top tier talent, top tier teams that have been on the big stage just one short year ago, not even 6 months ago now, it does make for a tough slate to begin your season.
Yeah, it definitely does. But I think that it is tough for sure. But I mean, they just gotta go through the fire. They're getting thrown right into it. There's no easing your way into this thing, and they have lofty expectations of themselves that are clearly not aligned with public positioning and belief of what the team has in terms of talent and expectations this season. So, just keep the standard high for what it is that you have in terms of expectations for yourself, and continue working towards that and doing so, controlling the things that you can control. Um, but yeah, that I mean, this the schedule is wild. It's wild, and I know you can say okay, they're starting. Golden State's not that far from where Vegas is. When you factor in, they also got to come back home and play a third game in 4 nights from when their personal season started. Like that just kind of adds up a little bit. But again, like I said to open the show, that's something that's out of their control. I think the positive side is that they do have numbers in terms of players that can eat away at minutes, so that other players don't necessarily have to play a very hefty amount of minutes. And it also helps when you go out and you win by a very decisive margin in your first game to allow for your starters to get a little bit of rest to start the season.
And that kind of leads me into my first question for you, talking about the loss that the Mercury took to the Golden State Valkyries. And it's kind of just like, and I hope that this doesn't come across as me trying to make excuses for the team, because they're the first to tell you that there is no such thing as moral victory in basketball. They want to win games, period, point blank. But how much of this loss to Golden State do you think fatigue plays a big factor in? Just because, like, to your own point, like they did kind of blow out the Aces the night before, so there was an opportunity to rest some of their bigger stars on the team. But at the same time, Nate is trying to take a little bit of a more unique approach to the lineups, early in the season, because it's kind of what you're forced to do as a WNBA coach, right? Like you're kind of trying to figure things out, and like we said on the post game after the Vegas game, like there are some kind of tough decisions to be made. And so you want to give those players an opportunity to kind of prove themselves on the big stage, albeit in one of the, toughest environments in the WNBA in Golden State Valkyries. But like, how much do you think that fatigue really played into this loss?
Yeah, no excuses from me. I don't think fatigue played much of any factor in it for them. You score 11 points in the second quarter, and then you come out and score 31 in the third and look like two completely different teams. That shows that they didn't necessarily run out of gas. I just don't think the execution level was to the standard that they've set for themselves, which leads for me to have the certain expectations that I do for them. You can't come out and turn the ball over to the high volume of extents that they did. You can't concede extra possessions to the highest volume of extents that they did in that Golden State game. Those are two things that are non-negotiable. Those, even if you do go and you win the first quarter by 3 points last night, you come out in the second quarter and you're just not sharp, especially on the road for a team like Golden State that plays off of their crowd, but they also play a style of basketball that gets their crowd engaged. If you're not controlling those controllables, this is a result you can have happen to you on any given night against any given opponent. And I think it's good that the Mercury have this game to kind of go back and watch the film on, because it feels like a lot of things were very correctable. Just getting bodies on players, that extra effort to make sure you get the rebound after you do all of that work for 23, 22, 21 seconds of the shot clock. All that work you did prior is only as good as your last effort to make sure you get the possession that now allows you to go and reap the benefits of getting those stops. And I think little things like that in terms of their game process, they did not manage to the extent that they could have last night. And Kevin, I spoke with Nate Tibbs about the possession game in particular last night, which kind of culminates in turnovers and rebounds or offensive rebounds conceded. Here's what Nate had to say about how he felt they managed that last night.
Yeah, it's extremely important. We did not win the possession battle tonight. Obviously, the turnovers, the rebounds, they got more shots than us. That's going to be a big thing for us this year is just the possession battle, and we did not do our job tonight when it comes to that.
Yeah, there's what Nate had to say about the possession game. That's something that's very important for them. You can't have the game kind of slip out of your grasp in those respects to those extents. Look at what the Mercury did against the New York Liberty in round one of last playoffs. They dictated the terms of play and they managed the margins to the extent that New York was a team that usually has a lot of room for error, suddenly had slim to none. And even one of Stewie's best playoff performances in the closeout game just wasn't enough because of how well the Mercury managed those particular margins. Move on to the second round, and you play Minnesota, rinse and repeat. Minnesota gets multiple efforts and multiple high-level play from all of their top-end pieces in different respects. But because the Mercury are navigating the game process with such a fine-tooth comb, they don't leave much of any margin for error. And any missed shot, missed layup, missed free throw, like all of that stuff starts to grow with a certain type of magnitude, especially on that stage. They navigated that very well during that series against Minnesota, and that's one of the largest reasons why they were able to win that series as well. Now, when you get to the finals, it was a different story because all of those things that game process-wise, the Mercury really not even just controlled, manipulated through the first two rounds. Now, all of a sudden, it grew a lot more close to even, and then once it got to kind of close games in the fourth quarter, 10-0, 7-0 run from your opponents really push you behind the 8 ball, and you start to see that kind of imbalance. That was kind of not the same extent or even against the same team, obviously, last night, but that's just another example of the kind of margin for error that the Mercury are operating with. Yes, they have talent. Yes, they have continuity, but execution is something that no team is above. And if you're not going to be executing to your personal standard or potentially even higher than that, you can get clipped on any given night. Even if you do have Jovana Nogic knocking down almost all of her shots again, AT coming away with almost another triple-double, Mack knocking down threes. Like, all of these things can happen, and that's awesome. But if your team execution level isn't sustained, it might not always be enough. So you want to make sure you clean up that because it's very controllable.
Well, and to your own point, like on versus the Aces, they only turn the ball over 8 times. They,
And I think it
score
was
tons
like
of points.
6 before garbage time, which
Yeah,
is even crazier.
like it was an I won't say an anomaly, but it was an incredible performance in terms of ball handling. And then on the flip side, they caused chaos and turnovers for the Aces. But last night was kind of the flip side of that same story where, the Valkyries are causing chaos for the Mercury. The Mercury turned the ball over 17 times, and then at the end of the day, the most second points chance win the game. And this was exactly, kind of what we saw play out last night versus the Valkyries.
Yeah, exactly. To that point, Golden State had 24 points off turnovers from the Mercury. Mercury had 17 turnovers, resulted in 24 points. The Mercury only scored 11 points in the second quarter. So Golden State had more points off turnovers in the game than they scored themselves in the second quarter. That's not going to get it done. Not going to get it done. And I think, again, it's just something that's very controllable. I feel like for me, just in going back and looking at the turnovers, some of them were scoring or kind of being aggressive turnovers, which I feel like the ones that those are the ones that Nate Tibbetts will live with, as far as if you're going to get a paint touch and then you're trying to make a pass off of being kind of purposeful with how you're operating. That's a lot more different than we don't really know where we want to get to, so now we're slow and the defense hasn't had to make any decisions, and then we end up making an errant pass without having any type of action that's really taking place. I think those former turnovers will be much more kind of okay with than the latter turnovers, and it felt like there was a little bit more kind of disconnect with some of the things they were doing in that second quarter, especially, and then that certain moments of the third quarter, even though they were able to ultimately clean that up and come to within, I think, 6 or 5 points going into the fourth quarter. So you want to put together that purposeful offense you saw for 40 minutes against Las Vegas. You want to kind of copy and paste that as much as you can regardless of who your opponent is.
And like you said, like obviously the second quarter felt like a uphill battle from the moment it kind of started for the Mercury. Um, but at the same time, like the Mercury were able to kind of power back, put themselves back in position to win the game at multiple points in that game. And so, how much of this problem that was a problem last night? I'm not gonna say here and say that I think it's going to be a continuous problem for the Mercury, but how much of that problem do you think a player like Monica Komakani coming back into the fold really helps to solve that problem for them?
Yeah, it helps a lot, and that's why I tweeted about it this morning. I'm like you can say what you want about last night's game for sure, but if you're not factoring in who just wasn't around or available for the Mercury, then it's not being looked at through the proper lens or in the right context. Monique was a player that didn't turn the ball over much last season. She was also someone that guaranteed that they not only got shots up on goal offensively, but she also helped them take possessions away from their opponents defensively. And I think that part had some variance in terms of taking possessions away, but what didn't have variance is the level of defense that she was able to put forth for them, especially at points of attack. So I start with looking at Golden State. Veronica Burton is a very, very, very good basketball player. Was top 5, I think, or top 6 in drives last season, and was one of the most efficient drivers in terms of points that her team received off of her going and driving to the basket. Few players can stay in front of her. It was a little tough for the Mercury to navigate staying in front of her to the extent that help defenders around whoever it was that was guarding her didn't feel like they might need to help the person on the ball out. That's something that Monica Komakani does for the Mercury. You don't have to worry about helping because 9 times out of 10 she's sticking to the hip, if not outright cutting somebody off from being able to get to the basket. So that would, first of all, take away from Burton's ability to kind of impact the game in the terms of it to certain extents. It also will help with taking away the 38 paint points that we saw Golden State get last night as well. If you're able to stop players from getting clean paint touches and the help is not engaged, then you keep your defensive shell intact. You keep your shell intact, they don't really have opportunities to poke at your defense to the extent that they were able to from the second quarter onward through the finish line of the game. So not to say that Monique is like an MVP player, but her impact for this team is almost irreplaceable when you factor in what she does in ball security, but also what she does in taking possessions away from opponents, but just the general steadiness that she provides on both sides of that. That's why she was so good last season, and that's why she had such a quick staking of claim to that starting point guard spot and providing impact on that. And it starts with that guard spot. Guard spot is arguably the toughest position in the W, and if you have somebody that's comfortable guarding those players, you give yourself a chance.
Well, and I want to talk about like what you just said about taking possessions away because while I do want to give my girl Natasha Mack a huge shout out, honk honk on that 3-pointer, my roommate thought that somebody was brutally murdered on the side of the road when that happened. I won't lie, quite the screech that came out of my mouth. Again, it was just a visceral reaction, really. Like you would have thought that again something either very inappropriate or someone was murdered outside of my home. But when Mac walked in to Golden State last night. She was averaging a double double, and now she has a game where she gets two rebounds, and it kind of puts the Mercury in a funny spot because in a game where she needed to create a ton of possessions to have the comeback or to have the wherewithal to beat a team like the Las Vegas Aces, you need that night after night. It's not just to beat the Aces, it's to beat everyone, including the Golden State Valkyries. And that's a really tough spot for the team to be in because they kind of depend on her to go up, crash the glass, and get the Mercury extra possessions, either on the offensive side or to just close out the defensive possession. And considering that wasn't something that was happening last night, it really put the team in a tough spot.
Yeah, they definitely need more rebounding production from Natasha Mack. But what I will say though, too, context wise, go back and look at last night's game against the Valkyries. She didn't have a traditional matchup. So, the starting 5 for the Mercury, starting 5 for Golden State. They have Kayla Charles out there in place of Tip Hayes with obviously Veronica Burton. And then they go with Kayla Thornton. And then they go with also having Kia Stokes out there in the front court. What the Mercury were doing matchup-wise, you would think, okay, Kia Stokes is out there. that's who Natasha Mack's matchup is. It's not what they were doing last night. Natasha Mack spent most of her time, especially against the starting lineup for Golden State, guarding Kahleah Thornton. Kahleah Thornton is not someone that spends all of her time in the paint. She's usually in the perimeter and then working herself downhill. So Mack not being in the traditional rebounding position to start or oftentimes even to end possessions impacts her ability to then get back downhill to go get the boards. It's possible, and that's the standard that she's been held to because she's shown the ability to do it before. But that's not something that always happens when you kind of go with this cross-matching. If you're cross-matching and Jovana Bonner is the one that's guarding Kia Stokes or it's Alyssa Thomas at times, they got to go crash and get bodies on everybody else that's in the paint. They got to crash with a certain type of urgency knowing that Mack might not always be around the paint to help out with that. And it felt like there were multiple moments where the Mercury just didn't have the urgency that they typically show to get those offensive rebounds that Golden State was ultimately able to get their hands on. And then they got 10 points by way of those last night. So that's not all on Mack. And Mack mentioned it in postgame yesterday that she has to be better working her way back downhill to help her teammates out. But the other 4 players on the court also got to do a much better job of pursuing the basketball and being physical with those box out within all of that. So it's twofold. Yes, it's Mack. She can help more there. But I think if they're going with that scheme and that's something that's part of why they're such a good defense, the other 4 players on the court got to be better pursuing that ball too.
See, and this is why we keep Steven around to bring us all back down to the God's green earth. I love it around here. I got it. Nobody got it better than me. I want to talk about
Real quick,
Jovana.
Tanika made a good point in the chat saying that DB did a much better job in the second half of rebounding. That's exactly what it is. It can't all just be on DB and Alyssa with that as well. But I think that was a big difference when it was working, when they got the 31 points in the third. It was a lot of Jovana Bonner comes down with the rebound in ways that we just didn't see in that second quarter. So I think that matters a whole lot when we're speaking kind of holistically over that game.
And Jovana was through the first 2 games, she's proven to be worth every cent. I believe she's on a vet minimum contract. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's correct. And I mean, every penny, every freaking last nickel, dime, penny. Matt Ishbia, in fact, go ahead and give her an extra grand just for existing on this fine Monday afternoon. But I saw you had Kevin cooking up some graphics, so I'm excited to get a full segment on Yo-Yo Nogic in this chat with you, because the last time I spent like 15 minutes talking about her, you weren't quite on the podcast yet. So I mean, obviously I could talk about her 3-point shooting, and I mean, the fact of the matter is she's at 80% through the first 2 games of the season, which is not by happenstance. Those type of numbers are not by accident, and it's not like it's on 1.5 attempts per game. It's on a full 5 or more attempts, which is pretty impressive. And I caution all Mercury fans to stop being so quick to judge on these roster additions / subtractions, because if little things like Jokic don't prove to you what type of scouting department the Phoenix Mercury have, I don't know what will, because I mean, quite literally, the girl is a walking sniper rifle. It's actually, and then to watch her do it, just cook teams with a glowing smile on her face. That is special stuff that you don't just get to walk into. The Mercury went and found it, and it's a real gem. And I'm excited to hear Steven's take on where Yo-Yo's at and through 2 games with the Mercury.
Yeah, Kevin, we can start with the Yo-Yo for potential Rookie of the Year graphic. Just looking at her numbers, obviously only through 2 games, but through those 2 games, she's been one of the best Mercury basketball players on the roster, also one of the best players on the court with the other team that they're going up against kind of factored into it all too. So 17.5 points per game, shooting 50% from 2, 80% from 3 on, like you mentioned, Erika, 5 3-point attempts a game through 2 games. And she's also mixing in some steals and assists with that as well, with 2.5 assists per game and 1 steal per game as well. So Nogic is she's checking off all of the boxes that the Mercury are asking for her to do, especially in that starting spot. And I think that it hasn't come without flaws. She's had some moments where it's been a little rough on turnovers, naturally with player being new, player not having really much of any training camp and just being thrown into the fire against a live defense and an opponent that you really haven't had much time to scout for. Like all of that stuff factored in. It's had some room for improvement areas, but I think the loudest pieces have been the success rate that she's had. She's been a lot better than she's left a little bit more to be desired, and that speaks a lot to just her preparedness as an individual basketball player. Comes in, teams don't really know what to do with her, and she lets it fly, and she lets it fly again and again. I think the versatility of usage that they're able to get out of her really matters a lot. Going back to what we spoke to in postgame from the win against the Las Vegas Aces. Sometimes she's initiating offense. Sometimes she's off the ball. Sometimes she's screening for Alyssa Thomas. No different than Sammy Whitcomb showed to do at a league best rate last season in terms of points per chance when they're getting into those actions. She does it all. And I think she's also very good defensively as well. Yes, she leaves a little bit of room to be desired at times, but she competes. And when you compete and you have a certain level of stick-to-itiveness that comes with how you compete, you find a way in an impact like she's had for this team through the first 2 games. I think the other thing that stands out for me, Kevin, we can get to this second graphic as we kind of paint the context for what Nogic has done through her first 2 games. Looking at the history, and we start specifically looking at the things that she's done that's put her in the air that only Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi have been in with the Phoenix Mercury. And this is a list of players for the Mercury that have scored 15-plus points in their first 2 career games. Now, if you just said that Jovana Nogic did something that only Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner have done for the Phoenix Mercury and did not paint the context of exactly what statistical feat or feats those might be, you would just say that's stellar. That means she's doing something that literally no one else really in the history of the Mercury has done, but also in general, knowing the precedent that those two set as a standard for players when they come to the Mercury, that's a very good conversation to have your name involved with. And you haven't even had, like, your cup of coffee that you might have ordered hasn't even been served to you yet. She just walked in the door and just immediately started getting things done and adding value and providing impact. We get to this final graphic as well as we look at it not just with the Mercury context, but also from the league as a whole. And you look at players that have done what she's done through their first 2 games. And she's shooting the ball as well as Ryan Howard did when she came into the league a handful of seasons ago. That speaks a whole lot to just how well she's playing, the impact that's come with the numbers that she's putting up, and how it's kind of really putting teams in a frenzy of, man, last season you already had to figure out what to do with Monica Cole-McConaughey, and then also figure out what to do with Sammy Whitcomb in this Mercury context. And then they just go and add another player that brings a healthy blend of what both of those 2 players bring. And doing that, bringing that impact without either of those other 2 players having been around the team yet, it's a lot to deal with. That's not something that you just kind of walk your way into. She's a player, thoroughly. A shooter that can play basketball, not just a shooter. And I think that's going to be something that they can really lean more into once they start getting closer to full strength. And they'll kind of be able to better position her within the team scheme as well as just generally in lineups.
This might be me making an assumption and then and hint, making an ass out of myself, which is okay with me. I'm okay with being uneducated. That's why we have this show, to bring education to our lovely viewers of the PHX podcast. But do you think bringing somebody like Monica Cole-McConaughey back makes her job on the defensive end in particular a little bit easier so that those slip-ups don't become, not necessarily don't happen, but don't become so obvious because you have someone like Mo to kind of keep your shell intact?
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it helps defensively for sure, but I think it also helps on offense too. Because now you have another player start with offense. You have another player in Mo. They can just go get a paint touch against almost any matchup, whether it's pick and roll, isolation, transition, even off a cut. She can just go get a paint touch. And if she's getting paint touches that flatten the defense in certain capacities, what does it look like when Mo is getting those paint touches and now she's kicking it out to Jovana or Sammy or Dawana or Kahleah? Like that, it just hits very different if it's a player that's not necessarily a primary creator for the team that's going to get those paint touches and is attracting extra attention. So it's all puzzle pieces. Monique is going to be better because of the presence of Nogic, and Nogic is going to be significantly better because of the presence of Monique. And to your question about the defense, same thing. Nogic doesn't have to go and match up against primary ball handling pieces on the other side. Maybe she can kind of quote unquote hide on someone else, which then allows for her help decisions to kind of have that much more impact for the team, which naturally will play into how they're able to get stops, force turnovers, and just be a better, more cohesive team on that end of the floor as well. So it's all puzzle pieces for sure, and they're all going to be better with the presences of each other and their strengths all being able to kind of combine, just to kind of take a load off of each other individually, but also help each other kind of play to their strengths more too.
I was talking to our good friend of the show, Shane Young, about this, but like watching her answer the question about playing alongside AT and just being so giddy and so happy is just, I mean, that's what you want from your, and like, I don't mean this in the derogatory way that a lot of people use this word, but like from your role players, you really want that, like, wow, I'm excited. I get to play with this level of player, as if like Ant is playing with a Kevin Durant. You know what I mean? Like that is the level of
They
joy
got
that you
Jaden
kind of
McDaniels.
saw.
They don't need no KD.
But you see what I'm saying? Yeah, whatever. But like, did you not see Ant at the Olympics? Like, dude was like, I don't like using this word, but he was literally gushing, and like that's how I felt about Nokic answering that question. Like, she was so excited, and she's like, yeah, I mean, playing next to AT does make my life a lot easier, and for her to acknowledge that so early on, like obviously AT is who she is, and she doesn't need any accolade to prove that to anyone overseas, here domestically, no matter what. She is exactly who she thinks she is, but it's nice for the incoming new players to kind of feel the gravity of playing with someone like AT so early.
Yeah, I think that matters a lot when you're just kind of assessing what's the frequency that a team is vibrating at. And I think for Nogic, who's been here 5 days now, 4 days, something
Yeah,
like that,
maybe not even that.
maybe not even that, and significantly less time in terms of practice, like that says a lot that they're already, first of all, enjoying playing with each other and figuring it out on the fly in the fire, but they're also providing production. Like, it's cool to have fun with each other, but you're only gonna have fun with Alyssa if you're winning and you're providing production. Nogic is doing that, and to that point, over the weekend, Nogic had 3 threes made, I think, in both games against Vegas and Golden State, by way of passes that came from Alyssa Thomas. That's, if you close your eyes and I asked you, who do you think will be most likely on this roster to knock down 3 threes in both games away from Alyssa Thomas passes? First name is naturally going to be Sammy Whitcomb. Second name is probably going to be Jovana Bonner. The fact that you can have another name firmly entrenched in that conversation, and the way Alyssa goes and gets paint touches and plays off of the attention that she gets, all three can knock down 3 threes in any given night in the same game off of each other the way the Mercury play. Like, that's something that really just adds another layer to this team that they did not have last season, to the extent that through these first 2 games, it seems like they're getting closer and closer towards sustaining with. And again, just having that versatility in attack, but also, again, having another more capable body around someone like Alyssa, it changes things. It changes things a lot for this team.
I'm cracking up at Shane saying that she doesn't even have an official headshot on the league site yet.
No, she
Don't
doesn't.
worry. It's coming. It's coming. But we're going to talk about Alyssa Thomas's impact on this team after this quick break here on the Phoenix Mercury podcast. I'm really, really excited to talk about AT. I feel like I don't want to say we didn't do a good enough job campaigning last year, but I'm trying to start this campaign as early as humanly possible. So even though it's only game 2, I'm starting way too early conversations here on the PHX Mercury podcast after this quick break. Guys. It is about to get even hotter in Arizona. Summer is coming. In fact, let me just take that back. Summer is here. It was 101 degrees today. How old are your windows? It's not just about style, but about comfort and savings. And your windows can help you lower your energy bills immediately, instantly, today, right now. Serving Arizona since 2002. While they started with just windows, they are way more than just a window store. From windows and doors to cabinets and countertops, they stock more so you spend less. No wait times, no gimmicks, just everyday low pricing and ready to go inventory. Now with 8 participating locations across Arizona and windows proudly manufactured in my home city of Tucson, Arizona, you can go to Phoenix, Surprise, Chandler, Tucson, and Marina. There's one near you. Doesn't matter where your job site is. Contractors and homeowners love the Window Depot. Doesn't matter if you're remodeling a kitchen or tackling a multi-home build. Their expert staff and no membership policy make it way easy to get what you need and fast. You can shop online, pick up in store, browse and order directly at thewindowdepot.com with real-time access to in-stock products at your nearest location. Get what you need when you need it. Woo! Mountain America Credit Union, my friends. Mountain America Credit Union, my friends. And did I mention our good friends over at Mountain America Credit Union with the Phoenix Mercury card? Look at that fly thing on our screen. I mean, dang, 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 dang. I need that. I need that. I need that. Get these elite cards from the official credit union of the Phoenix Mercury. It's available as both a debit card and a credit card. Doesn't matter. Even better, you can take advantage of the special checking and credit card promotion for Phoenix Mercury fans. You can get a $200 bonus when you open up a Mercury credit card and a MyStyle checking account. There's no annual fee credit cards available as low rate cashback and rewards card options. The MyStyle account unlocks extra benefits like telehealth access, loan rate discounts, and mobile phone protection, plus way more. Mount America is here to help you guide you forward on your financial journey. Get your Mercury card today and score your $200 bonus. Visit macu.com/mercury200 to learn more. Insured by NCUA, membership required based on eligibility. This limited time offer ends December 31st and can be changed or withdrawn at any time. Term, conditions, and exclusions applied. Loans on approved credit. Oh my goodness. Woo! Wait. Say that 5 times fast. I dare you. But anyways, back to the ever-loving basketball content here on the PH Next Radio podcast. Be sure to leave a comment. If you've got a question, leave it in the comments down below. We've got, I would say, maybe a few minutes to spare at the end of the conversation today. So leave a comment in the chat down below. Maybe we'll have time to get to it at the end of the podcast today. But I wanted to talk about Alyssa Thomas because Shane put up this tweet earlier today. And Kevin, if you can go ahead and put that bad boy on the screen for me, I'd be
young boy.
Yes, exactly. Young boy. Alyssa Thomas has helped generate 51 points off of her assists in 2 games. 11 of her 20 assists have come on 3-pointers. By her own scoring and assists, she's helped create 50.6% of the Phoenix Mercury's 178 points so far. Steven, what type of player do you have to be to literally be responsible for nearly 51% of your team's points through 2 games of the season?
Yeah, you got to be some type of all-time great, some type of MVP type player, some type of one of the best offensive talents the league has seen. That's the type of piece you are if you're coming in and accounting for that much of your team's offense. And if you were to take away the less meaningful minutes of that fourth quarter against Las Vegas, that 50 starts to creep a lot closer to 60, a lot closer to the low 70s in terms of how much of the Mercury's offensive production she can account for. That doesn't even factor in like the picks that she might set that leads to somebody getting downhill. Like Alyssa Thomas is one of the best players in the WNBA and has been that for 8 years now, like consistently for like 8 years now. You start to run out of things to say when you're talking about how much greatness she has. So you just have to start leaning into the details of it all. And the passes that she's able to not just make in terms of delivering on what she's seeing, but anticipate. There's a pass that she had to Kiara Linskins after she got a pick against Golden State where I think she's on the left side of the court, turns the corner off the screen, goes to get a paint touch, and Linskins cuts from the opposite kind of wing area right to the basket. The angle and the touch you have to have and anticipation for that pass that she makes to Linskins, probably only like 4 other players in the W that are making that. And there's probably only 2 of those 4 that are able to make it in the way that AT is, because you need a certain type of size and a certain type of anticipation to see that window, thread the needle on that window, and deliver a catchable pass that allows for your teammate to then lay the ball up. AT's special. Mercury fans, I said it all last season and the season before that. Y'all are spoiled rotten. And please enjoy all of this time that you have to have an all-time winner and all-time great playmaker like Alyssa Thomas at the spearheading point of everything that is your franchise after the Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner era.
You're right. We are spoiled, and that's why I like it. I like to be fan. T, where's the sound effect? I need it.
T.
I'm so glad we have just a menace behind the mic. Shout out to Kevin for driving the bus. For driving the bus, pressing the X's and O's, making sure this thing stays on track. Today, I'm so happy we have him, and I don't think we could ask for a better producer because I don't, like, who's gonna give us that? Noah would never. No offense to Noah, he
Oh
would
T.
just.
wow.
T.
I
Uh,
was accidentally calling Noah before today's show, so I could have ended up on the Cardinal show this time instead of the D-backs.
I I'm gonna reroute us before we get in trouble. Um, in terms of AT's assist, her 20 assist is number one in the W right now through this first weekend of games. Also, her 3-point assist 11 is tied with person I just got done talking about. That's also very good at driving the basketball and passing to her teammates. That is Veronica Burton. Um, I know we talked about a lot of the Mercury struggles last night. A lot of them stem from just Veronica Burton being great. Phoenix throwing multiple coverages at her, and she has an answer for all of them that puts her teammates in position to be successful. And that's the same thing that Alyssa Thomas does on a night in, night out basis. And Veronica is one of those players, those 4 players that I was mentioning, can make one of those passes to Kiara Linskins, like I was speaking to from AT. So those are 2 very great basketball players. Alyssa is very unique in her own right, considering she's not a point guard. She can play it, but that's not the position that she's quote unquote tabbed with playing every night. But yeah, it just speaks to her greatness. Alyssa by far led the league in 3-point assists. I think she shattered the 3-point assist record last season, and she through 2 games with 11 is on track to break that record. Even though there are a few more games than last season, she's on track to outpace that record that she set for herself even last season.
When you look at the genetic makeup of this team as it is right now, how much more do you think there is to be unlocked once Kahleah is kind of firing on all cylinders?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, they scored 99 points in game 1, and Kahleah did not have the most efficient or effective scoring night. Um, what does that do for their game process? Kai couldn't really get it going in a sustained manner last night against Golden State. What does that do for the game flow if her scoring is hitting to that extent where she's operating as one of the 10 or 8 best players in the W? Like, I think that's something that is on the horizon for them. They need for it to surface soon because of the strength of schedule conversations that we had earlier in the show. She's going to be called to task to do it, and I have no doubt that she's going to be up to that task and then some. I imagine past being up to the task, she's probably just chomping at the bit to play more like herself on the offensive end for the standard and expectations that she has for herself. I'm sure she's intensely watching the film, seeing where she's maybe missed some openings or had some shots that she took out of rhythm that she could have took an extra dribble or took an extra second to gather herself before taking it, things like that. So I'm not worried about Kai, and I'm sure you're not either, but I think that there is growth that this team can make simply off of their franchise player just continuing to step up and play to the standard that she set for herself so many years prior to this present season.
Kazian Bradley, to answer your comment down below in the chat about trading for Cam Brink, I'm off that train. I could maybe sense a different answer from Steven, but me personally, it's not that I don't value Cameron Brink and what she's capable of doing on a basketball court. I'm just not at the point where I think the Phoenix Mercury need any help down low, to be very honest with you. So I'm obviously eager to see the other pieces added back into the fold, and whatever else is down the line for the Mercury, but I am eager to see that addition first before I'm willing to go out on some crazy limb and say that the Mercury need to make a trade.
Yeah, I don't know if the front court is where they need help at this present moment. I think we've seen this team operate without Valua Yayi, and that's somebody that's gonna strike the same accord as Cam Brink would for Los Angeles once she gets to her full capacity of health and also gets back up to conditioning for playing in games consistently. So now I don't know if Cam Brink is what the Mercury need. I like where your mind is and trying to figure out where they might need some help at. At this present moment, it's just entirely too soon. The full team is not even intact yet, so it's just a little hard to look at things through that lens at this present moment.
I'm not worried about the Mercury's front court. I think any team with Alyssa Thomas in their front court has probably got it all right. And then on top of it, Natasha Mack is who Natasha Mack is. I'm not worried about the Mercury's front court. I think the Mercury's front court is going to be just fine. Is there anything else about yesterday's game that you wanted to mention before I move on to some predictions? Because we actually haven't done any of these all season, and I am eager to do them with you today.
Yeah. Last thing I'll mention is with Jovana Nogic, like a lot of the stuff she does with the ball in her hands gets a lot of attention. And I mean, when you shoot 80% through 2 games on a certain type of volume like she is with 5 threes a game, it's naturally going to get a lot of attention. And I think that matters a lot because that's how she's going to really provide impact. But if we're talking about what things are going to look like when she's in the fold after Sammy Whitcomb and Monica Cole-McConaughey return to the team, I think that's where you have to start to have to see her doing certain other things that are going to be functional for them. And to that point, I think she's also been very good off the ball. Talked about the screening for Alyssa Thomas and pick and roll and how she's kind of manipulated that action into opportunity for herself. So I'll leave that one alone for now. We can revisit that a couple of weeks from now once they get more games under their belt with that particular play. But I think she's done a good job of finding pockets to impact the game in a positive way without even setting picks on the ball. So I'm imagining just looking at her setting screens off the ball. There's a play in transition yesterday against Golden State. She sets up like an early pin in for Kahleah Copper in transition. Kai ends up getting a paint touch off of that. And because she gets this paint touch with like maybe 20 seconds on the clock, she sprays it out, ends up working his way back to Jovana on the third side now. And now she's able to shoot a wide open catch and shoot three. But she's reaping the benefits from her doing the early work to set an early screen. Similarly, with Kahleah Copper involved, there's another possession I'm thinking about where I think Kai's coming off of a screen or a handoff from Alyssa Thomas in the middle of the floor. Golden State is known for being a very heavy nail help team, so they like to have somebody kind of sitting in the middle of the court so players can't just turn the corner going middle. Kahleah's able to go middle and get past the nail without having to worry about help because Jovana's on the backside setting a screen for DeWanna Bonner. And it's just holding the attention of the defenders on the weak side, which allows for Kahleah to turn the corner, get downhill. Kai gets up an and one, and she flexes as she's on the ground getting helped up from her teammates. And I think if we're talking about, again, painting the full picture, how can she provide impact Nogic if she's not going to have the ball in her hands to the certain extent that she has through these first 2 games if you're imagining her in lineups with Sammy and or Monica Cole-McConaughey? It's just that, finding those marginal opportunities to impact things. How can you free up some space for someone else? How can you kind of open up to make yourself available when someone else has extra attention to then make another pass to get somebody else open? I think all of those little things, she really understands how to impact the game from the periphery. And that's something that I think as they get more tests thrown at them, having somebody else outside of Sammy that processes the game from the external to the speeds at which she does, but also has the complementary skills in dribbling and shooting to kind of execute off of the attention that players like AT and Kai and even DB at times will get. Now you're talking about a team that maybe doesn't have some of the hurdles that they ran into in the postseason last season that they have to work through because you just have more ways to kind of go about navigating against these things.
I'm just in my head, I'm thinking about a lineup right now of Sammy, Mo, Kahleah, and Yo-Yo, and then AT down there. I mean, just like you said, spoiled rotten. The fact that I can even ponder up that headline or that lineup in my head is pretty diabolical. And Kazian, I actually just wanted to give you another shout out really quick. Yeah, and the WNBA trade deadline, I just looked it up, is August 21st. So quite a long time to make, cut downs and big decisions to be made because you are right. Like Cam is on a stellar contract if you're looking at this new CBA, and so I'm honestly surprised more teams aren't calling the Sparks line about that. But I'm sure more to come on that. But
Let me point out
nonetheless,
real quick too. The future becomes the present has a good comment too, saying when Yo-Yo and AT get acclimated to each other, could be scary for the league. And I think that's to the point that we just got done speaking to. If you can get another player that operates at that same frequency that AT and Sammy do, an offense in and of themselves with the way in which they operate and the attention that naturally has to come to it because of the complementary skills that they have. Now you're starting to talk about the Mercury taking steps that they just didn't have the facilities to take this season to extent that they just weren't able to last year. Also coming with having a full season's worth of reps underneath their belt as well. So they're working towards something for sure. They have their work cut out for them as well. But I think this is a very solid tone-setting start just to see Jovana be operating to these extents so impactfully with Alyssa Thomas.
Well, I want to take just a quick moment to give a little prediction for the home opener tomorrow as the Mercury look to take on the Minnesota Lynx. Obviously, the Lynx don't have Nafisa Collier, but at the end of the day, they're coached by the 2024 Coach of the Year in Cheryl Reeves. They've got Kayla McBride. They've got I believe, the second overall pick in the WNBA draft in Olivia Miles, which the fact that the Minnesota Lynx had the second overall pick in the WNBA draft is actually, I don't know if you guys have seen the nightmares trend on TikTok, but that's number one horror movie in my life is the Lynx having the number 2 overall pick in the WNBA draft. Even fourth would have been egregious, but to be 2 in this draft is crazy. But nonetheless, they obviously picked up Olivia Miles, who's having herself quite the welcome to the W, considering the way she played against the Atlanta Dream. I'm excited to see how the Mercury kind of responds to their game yesterday. Like you said, this is their third game in 4 days, but it is the home opener. You're back in front of the X Factor. You haven't played in front of the full thing, I guess, this season. And there it is. Here it is on, your game 3 of the season. I think the Mercury are going to win the game. I think it's probably going to be by 8-point margin is what I'm going to guess. But I would love to know your take on tomorrow's game versus the Lynx, Stephen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Fee is not going to be available for this game. But I think even the fact, and Kevin just realized it and just made the stink face. But even with Fee not being available, there's still going to be a certain level of competition that's going to exist in this game. For Fee not being available, there's still Kayla McBride, there's still Courtney Williams, there's still Cheryl Reeve as much as anybody that's going to be wearing some form of black and blue tomorrow at Mortgage Matchup Center. There's going to be a certain competition level. There's history between these two teams, or franchises rather, not just these two teams in their iteration, but just history-wise. Dating back to Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner being around. Like, that stuff all matters. There's a certain level of competition when these two teams match up. They always get the best and the most out of each other. And I think tomorrow is going to be nothing different than that. Yes, it'll be a little unique because Fee's not available, but the competition level is still going to be high. For people that maybe aren't as privy to what's happened with Minnesota, so no, they don't have Nafisa Collier at this present moment. You mentioned Olivia Miles. If you go watch the highlights of Minnesota's first game against the Atlanta Dream, mind you, their only game that they will have played before tomorrow's game at MMC, that does not look like a rookie basketball player in any capacity, like at all. The playmaking reads, the confidence with the dribble, the handle in space, the shot-making ability, the flair to finish at the back. Like, that does not look like a rookie basketball player in any capacity. Olivia Miles is going to be good for a long time, and Cheryl Reeve is definitely going to get the absolute most out of everything that is the Olivia Miles talent. But past Olivia Miles, and it's hard to not start with her considering how well she played in her very first WNBA game. Courtney Williams is still there. You know, the mistress of the mid-range mommy, all of that stuff nickname-wise you want to give her, she's that. She also typically plays well going up against the Mercury as well for whatever reason. There's also naturally teammate history between her and Alyssa Thomas and Dewana Bonner as well, so they always get the most out of each other. Kayla McBride loves to play basketball in Phoenix. I don't know what the reason is. I'm not sure why. She loves to shoot the basketball in Phoenix, and it typically goes in when it leaves her fingertips in Phoenix to nauseating extents, honestly. So that's something else to keep an eye and keep your mind on with the matchup. But I think they also added Nia Coffey. Nia Coffey's not the loudest name. Nia Coffey's a winning basketball player. She's with a winning team that has an established brand. You put her with a coach like Cheryl Reeve, you're going to get the best versions of Nia that we've seen so far, which is very scary considering she'll be playing with Nafisa Collier in a matter of months. You go past Nia Coffey, they brought in a Wiley vet. They brought the Wiley vet back. Flash, Natasha Howard. That's another player that typically has a certain level of success when she's going up against the Mercury. just because of the all-encompassing style of play that she brings. Even if she is a little bit advanced in age, she still has impact when she's on the court. And then the last name I wanted to bring up is Maya Caldwell. Just another player, very quiet trade that they made at the end of last week, right before tip-off of W season. Come in, add impact immediately. Joe Reeve and company continue to get the job done on the margins. They have the reach for international talent that the Phoenix Mercury have recently shown. They've had that for the better part of a decade at this point. And you'll start to see more of the names that they've kind of found internationally to bring in starts to come to fruition and really start to stand out. No different than Jovana Nogic has for the Mercury in due time.
Can I ask you about the Kayla? I'm sorry, the Courtney Williams
Mm-hmm.
kind of situation that I believe is unique to this year because the Lynx have kind of spent the last 2 seasons making her into kind of the perennial point guard of their team, and then to bring in Olivia Miles has kind of made Courtney's job a lot easier because she doesn't have to be the primary ball handler anymore. Olivia is like you just said, like she is a fantastic reader of the court. She has awesome court vision on both the defensive end and the offensive end. So, how much easier does life become for Courtney, and how much more of an offensive threat does she become because she has an opportunity to kind of play off ball some more?
Yeah, I think that's the best version of Courtney Williams. I think when she came to Chicago 2023, James Wade put the ball in her hands because he saw the potential in her as a primary ball handler. And I think all of those reps have kind of grown. Someone who already had an elite handle and really good court vision. She understands the game even better since that 2023 season than she did prior to it, just by way of that runway that she was extended. So now you fast forward from 2023 to now. I think the best version of Courtney Williams is a player that's going to be able to be on the ball, but also have somebody that can create for her from the perimeter. What does that do for her game? Now she's seeing more closeouts. Olivia Miles is living in the paint whenever she wants to. Isolation, transition, pick and roll. She can just go get a piece of the paint whenever she wants to. But then she also, like you said, has that exceptional court vision to know where help is coming from, what type of pass to make to the person that is open. Now that allows for players like Courtney Williams and Kayla freaking McBride to play off a rotating defense. One that wasn't punctured by Nafisa Collier. It's by their rookie guard. Like, that's what makes that team so special and potential, and that's what's going to naturally put Courtney Williams in position to be even more successful than she was in her first 2 seasons with the Minnesota Lynx. Might not necessarily come on the same volume of usage, and she might not have as loud of scoring performances through the regular season, but I think they put this roster together for what it entails come postseason play. And if you have multiple players that can kind of shoulder the brunt of on-ball usage, and that's not even including the Nafisa Collier right now like we're talking about, that puts them in a better position come postseason this season than they potentially were even in last season's iteration, which was really good.
Well, I just got to get your prediction, and then we can get the heck out of here on today.
Yeah, not gonna be easy. I think I love that they do have the second toughest schedule through the first 11 games, the first quarter of the regular season, because you get to learn a lot about them, a lot less guessing, and a lot more tangible evidence to assess things off of. That being said, I think they are going to end up being able to go and get the win tomorrow. I think the fact that they lost last night's game on the parameters with which they did, in tandem with them being able to officially start the season in front of X Factor in the home opener tomorrow, is going to come with a certain type of edge, a certain type of desire. And I think it's all going to kind of culminate in them being able to get another win against a marquee type of matchup. I think they'll go ahead and win this one by, let's go Merc by 7. I think it'll be a close game, and then they'll kind of better navigate the fourth quarter just off of having the veteran presences that they do and the kind of continuity that they're working off of. Also having by far the best player on the floor in Alyssa Thomas.
Period.
And I guess since we're talking T, also the second best player on the floor in Kahleah Copper.
And I'll be there.
And Kevin Thomas will also be in the building.
In the building. There's pressure.
And when you see our clips go up, just know there are videos, okay? So clock it, tee it, retweet it, like it, because Kevin's going to be boots on the ground doing a lot of work for us tomorrow. So I'm really excited. I will bear the bad news of Erika not making it to the home opener tomorrow. Silly Goose can't read her calendar, schedules a competing podcast on the same day. I mean, who the heck does she think she is? It's just rude. It's inconsiderate of other people, being all of you in this chat, and I apologize, but nonetheless, we'll make Wednesday's episode kind of like a post-game show for for this game tomorrow, and then we'll preview the rest of the week and what the Mercury got shaken over the weekend. I've been Erika. That's been Steven. You can follow me on Twitter at Erika Lee Day. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. You can follow our missing piece, Gil, who I don't know if he's ever going to make it back to this podcast, at Gil
He'll be
McGregor.
back. He'll be back for Wednesday.
You can follow our super dope producer, Kevin, at Kevo Post, and then you can follow all of us hooting and hollering over on the X.com at PHNX_Mercury. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to leave a 5-star review. Leave a comment about something stupid I said or something really smart I said. It's really your choice. You can even leave a comment about something silly or stupid Steven said. Steven would never say anything stupid, but if he did, you can leave a comment about it. We don't discriminate against stupid comments here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys on Wednesday at 5:30. Bye!
We all silly like the mayor.